All right, what is going on, everyone? Hopefully this works out and I don't get dropped from the stream because I have been having some serious issues with the internet tonight. So I've had to reconnect a couple times. So if anything drops, apologize ahead of time. So I hadn't done a live stream in about, I don't know, about a month or so. So I thought get on here and talk a little bit about some recent sales, all this kind of stuff. Especially one of the things that's helped out with this is I talked about this in the last live stream. It's been this change to the heritage auction format where they now go once every, or well, they spread it out over 3 days. And so Sunday is Golden Age, Monday is Silver Age, and Tuesday is Modern and Bronze. And so because of that, it's made it so the auction ends a little bit earlier. And so it gives me a chance to, look at the sales data from that night. And I could actually put together some thoughts and have, a little conversation about some of those sales and everything. I thought it'd be fun to go over that. So, but before we get into that, hey, Sleek Geek, thanks for joining the chat tonight. Thought I'd go over a few recent pickups. Just if you haven't seen them on my channel, got a few books over here that I have shown recently that I've picked up. And one of them is going to be a little bit of a theme from tonight with some of the books I'm going to be talking about. And that's this one right here. This is Pep Comics number 24. This should be about the fourth appearance of Archie. His first appearance is in Pep 22. Second is 23. Then he's in Jackpot number 4. And then Pep 24. Now, it used to be there was a thought that Jackpot 4 came before Pep 23, but that seems to have been revised because there were definitely some comments on that in the video where I was talking about Pep Comics number 23. But yeah, cool World War II cover and the fourth appearance of Archie. So what I meant by saying there's going to be a little bit more conversation about that is that there was a really big MLJ. So MLJ is the publisher that did Pep and Archie early on. And so there was a really big MLJ auction this last week, and I picked up a few books in it. I know a few other people that picked up books in it. And so I'll talk about a couple of those. But first here, just a couple other books, a couple of the raw ones I picked up. I always like this book. Whenever I get a chance to pick it up for a good price, I do. And this is Hawkman number 4, first appearance of Zatanna, or Zatanna, however you want to say it. I mean, people don't always love the cover. I think it's a cool cover. I like the Hawkman covers. But yeah, she's on the opening splash page of this one. That's where you first see her. So got that one. That was part of my building a comic business, starting with $300 video. And these were two. This is Tales to Astonish number 64, which is the second appearance of Atuma and first cover appearance of the leader, which somebody pointed out the leader is going to potentially be in the, I think, is it like the Thunderbolts TV show or whatever it is. And so he may actually make an appearance in the MCU. Hey, Desired Comics, thanks for joining. And then this one was just a high grade Fantastic Four Doom cover. You can't go too wrong with the a nice Doom cover. So Fantastic Four 84. This was like a 992. And then this was I wanted to make a correction on this one. This is Strange Tales 150. I couldn't remember what this was the first of. It's the first of Umar, but it's also the first Buscema artwork in Marvel. And so I couldn't remember which artist it was, and it's Buscema. That's who this one is. So a couple little, minor key facts with that. Then a couple of the graded books that I've picked up recently. This one was actually what I talked about in the video today, right at the end. And this is Science Comics number 1. Now, this is a very rare book, a pretty, big key issue. And it's a Lufine cover. And the thing with this one, though, is this is a conserved copy. And so I had a little, conversation about, and yes, there is a big Pep 20 sale, and I have it up here queued up to talk about. So we will definitely be talking about that one. But yeah, this is Science Comics number 1. And the thing that I just wasn't sure about was how, because conserved is supposed to be A1, and when I say A1, it means that's the type of restoration, because conserved is a very specific type of restoration. And so A1 means professional, that's the A, and 1 means a small amount. And so with this, a small amount is there's a lot of leaf casting on this book. This whole section over here is leaf casted. The spine was complete. It must have been a completely split spine, and that was leaf casted so that you could reattach it and replace the staples, all that kind of stuff. So this one has a lot of leaf casting on it, where I would say it's probably I would think that would make it more like an A4 or an A5, but it still gets that conserved label. So I was asking in the video if anybody had some more insight onto the how something gets assigned conserved, because it on the CGC site, it specifically says that there can be, I said A1, but it says some leaf casting. And so I don't know how much some leaf casting is, is this must be some, I don't know what the limit of some is though, if you how much more there can be than this before it's no longer considered conserved. Then speaking of Pep Comics, there's this one I picked up, Pep Comics number 37, a nice high grade, a 6.5. This one is a slightly brittle page copy, but it is a stunning copy. A 6.5 is actually the highest grade you can get with slightly brittle pages. So you can have some really, really nice looking books. I have a couple 6.5 slightly brittle books, and they look so good, because if they didn't have that page quality, they'd probably be 7.5s or something like that. And so you can get some really nice presenting books, and the page quality is what limits the upper end of that grade. And the last one I wanted to show that I picked up, I was just real happy about picking this up. This is one of my keeper books. This is Flash 104. This is the last issue of the Golden Age Flash run, and I just really like this Hawkman cover. So I was happy to be able to upgrade my copy, which was a 3.0, to get this 5.5. So those are the books that I picked up. And let's see, I just wanted to check out the chat first. We've got Gino's Comics. What's happening, everybody? I watched your other video earlier that ASM4 was a dope score. I thought my ears weren't working when you said the price, crazy price. Yeah, I was really happy with the price, especially because it had sold like 2 months prior. And so when I was able to pick that up, I had seen recent sales, and I was like, yeah, I'll definitely pay $1,200 for this book that just sold for $2,000 like a couple weeks ago. But it does stink that I have to deal with getting it reslabbed. I already emailed Heritage, and I'll probably call them at some point tomorrow or something like that if I don't hear back right away, or if I don't hear back soon, because they have kind of a rule where you have to connect with them within a week to be able to make those types of claims. And so I want to make sure I reach out in quick enough time. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining the chat. So I'm going to share the Heritage sales that were going on today. So like I said, the way Heritage works now is that they do the Golden Age today. And I talked about this in the last video, how I was wondering what the impact was going to be on the sales numbers, or I had seen a pretty significant impact. It seemed like at first the sales were quite a bit weaker, and it's because my speculation was that people were like myself, I'd be watching largely for the Golden Age books, but because other books were on there, if I saw something for a good deal, I'd bid on that stuff too, silver, bronze, modern. But now, because the Golden Age books are all on Sunday, I rarely even watch Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday sales now. I track the data and everything, but I don't even really bother watching. And so I wonder how many other people do that, and then it impacts the number of bids that are going out for it. And from what I've seen from the numbers, I didn't have a chart ready right here, but Golden Age has recovered well. There was an initial big drop off in performance and sales across all the grades when Heritage made this shift. And Golden Age recovered well. And I'm not surprised about that, because it's on Sunday. It's still following the same format. Silver and bronze, in modern, they've recovered, but not back to where they were. So there is still, at least it's been maybe like 6 weeks now, maybe a little more than that, that's been going on. And so there is definitely a little bit more, seems to be a lingering impact on some of those sales numbers for the follow-on days. It has recovered some, so we'll see. Maybe over time it'll get back to it, but it's hard to say for sure. Let's see. That was my Ugly Tales from the Crypt 24 you grabbed a few weeks back. I can't believe it sold so cheap. Turned down larger offers before sending it to Heritage. Yeah. That's why that's why I said you don't really want me winning your book. It's usually it's not the best sign if I'm the one that won your book, because that usually means I got it for quite a bit below what I estimate the value of that book at. But I appreciate you selling me your copy of that book. That's an awesome cover. It's one of the few covers by Feldstein that is really kind of like ghoulish. Like most of the time his are, I don't know, just a little, I wouldn't say happier in the horror genre, but not nearly as ghoulish as that one. But then let's see. Then agree. I track a few Silver Age, but focus on Sunday. Yeah, and yeah, that's I wonder how big of an impact long term that's going to have. Now, like I said, I've seen it recover some but definitely not all the way. Then I do that, but in the other direction, I'm not in the market for gold, and so I don't watch Sundays anymore. Yeah, and so if you're never bidding on the golden age, then there's no real impact there. But yeah, I definitely bid across all ages, and now I don't. Now, I mean, I think that ASM4 was probably one of the first Silver Age books I bought for a while from Heritage. I've been buying, Golden Age a lot, especially since it's been spread out more. Yeah, got caught in all that lull, but yeah, still, well done. Yeah, I don't want to take your money, but but yeah, I was happy to be able to get it for that price. But yeah, so first, before I get into, I had a few sales I wanted to talk about briefly, and then I had kind of like an impromptu top 10 video for these Golden Age books that had sold today. But first, somebody mentioned this PEP 20. And so if you're not familiar, or no, this is the PEP 26. So we'll talk about the PEP 20 first, then we'll talk about PEP 26. So PEP 20 is this World War II, Nazi swastika cover. And this is oh man, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Very big thanks to you for all the work you do for the comic collecting community. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's awesome. But yeah, let's get back into this one. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. That's awesome. So let's get back into this one. This is a very, very in-demand MLJ book, and this sale, $13,200. I think I had this book estimated going for $7,500. Let me double check my numbers on it, but I'm pretty sure yeah, I had this one going for $7,500, and it just blew that away. There was actually a raw book that sold maybe 2 months ago that I was bidding on, and now I am really regretting not picking that one up because it went way lower than this, and that would have been a great pickup. For all I know, this was that book, and maybe somebody submitted it. Let's see. No, it doesn't have the QR code. So, but yeah, so this was a huge sale. I think it beat my estimate by, let's see, yeah, like 76%. So just absolutely crushed my estimate. This MLJ auction was interesting. There were some deals out there, and there were some massive sales. Some of the really big sales were with the Blue Ribbon Comics. Now I know there are a few people on Instagram that are really going after these Blue Ribbon Comics, and it was very apparent during this auction. I didn't watch a ton of them. I only watched maybe 3 or 4 of the Blue Ribbon Comics that went up for sale, but they were hitting massive numbers. And this was one of them, $5,760. I estimated this one would go for $3,000. Now, these books are not easy to estimate. You're kind of throwing a dart at the board with these, and I'll show you why. So this is Blue Ribbon Comics number 21, and this was that sale for $5,760. So with this book, there was one sale of a 9.0 in September of 2021. There has never been another sale of a 2.5. And then the last sale before that was 2017. I mean, there's nothing. There's so little. And that's why, once people start wanting to go after books like this, it's just, if you've got just a couple people that want it, you get numbers like these, because you just know if you pass on it, you may not get a chance again for 6 years, or the one you get a chance for goes for 20 grand, and so it's like, do you have 20 grand to spend on this book? Maybe not. And so, yeah, these Blue Ribbon Comics, they went really, really high. So there were some big sales for those. So this was definitely one of those. Now, let's see. So I sent a note to Heritage regarding the added days. Clearly, I wasn't the first or only negative feedback on topic. The last month, my Comic Link sales outperformed Heritage. May move it all to Comic Link. Yeah, so from what I've seen, the Golden Age stuff is still performing well. It's really I've seen the silver and the bronze are what aren't performing as well. Now, I do talk about this with when I talk about the market, when I'm talking about different sales numbers and everything with records and deals and all this kind of stuff. And when I when I'm bidding on book, like let's see, I think I talked about this when I did the interview on Comic Collector Geeks channel that he put out yesterday. So make sure you go check that one out. Go sub him up and check out. That was a lot of fun talking with him. It was about an hour, a little over an hour. But one of the things I talked about was that in up markets and in down markets, there are always deals and there are always records. Now you have, different sites and everything that are selling books. They're always going to advertise their wins. They're going to advertise the big sales. But there are always deals out there too, whether it's Comic Link, Comic Connect, Heritage, My Comic Shop, eBay, anything like that. I mean, I have got good deals on all of them. And I watch sales like this that are massive records, like this one. And like, what was it? This one, I mean, you get huge records like that. And then there are books that I felt like I bought for incredible deals during that same auction. And so sometimes it's just, if you watch enough volume of sales, you'll come across good deals and you'll come across really big records. But yeah, no, I mean, on average, it is probably still down a little bit. I mean, I'm wondering how long if they'll keep it like this or if they'll make some adjustments. Like maybe if it's because they want to have more books in the auction, then maybe they just keep everything even, evenly separated or evenly split, where you have gold, silver, and bronze all tied all together and just spread it out over 3 days. I mean, that's maybe the way it goes. Now, personally, now that I'm used to just having to watch on Sunday, I kind of like not really having to watch on Monday or Tuesday. It's kind of nice to get those evenings back. But yeah, I mean, I still like occasionally there'll be a book I'm interested in. I'll just, just watch that one or two specifically. But most of the time I'm doing other stuff now on Monday and Tuesday. Now the other book, so you can see this one. This was one I was bidding on. So my bid of 10,200, I was the underbidder on this one. Sadly, I really wanted this book. If you're not familiar with what this is the first appearance of Veronica Lodge. So one of the major Archie characters. And so most of the Archie characters, their first appearance is in Pep Comics number 22. That's where you get like Betty and Archie and Jughead. And then you get in Jackpot 5, you get the first Reggie and the first one other character, but it's slipping my tongue right now. But so, I mean, most of the characters are introduced very early on, but this is one of the big ones that comes a few issues later. And I had estimated it worth about 12,000. And so I went even over what I was really comfortable wanting to go for. And I thought I had it 3 different times. And then, it's like the last second, someone, just outbid me. And I ended up not getting it, sadly. But yeah, this one actually, I mean, it went a little below what I was estimating, but I just, wanted to talk about my sadness for, for this book. I've tried to buy one a couple times. Heritage had a raw copy maybe like 4 months ago that I bid on as well that went really high. I think it went for like 19,000 and I had to give up way earlier on that one. I thought I'd maybe have a chance at this one, but sadly I did not. Let's see. May all average out for Heritage since they seem to increase the number of pulps and collectibles in the Sunday auction. Yeah, no, definitely. There are a lot of other items now that are in the auction. The total volume of items that are in the auction now is definitely higher. And that was why I thought maybe that's another part of the reason that they wanted to spread it out over 3 days so they could get more items in there. I mean, like tonight, there must have been 100 pulp lots, if not more than that. There were a ton of them. I couldn't believe how many were actually in there this time. I actually wanted to talk about one of those partly just because I have no idea how to price pulps. I mean, for me, pulps are just so different. So I'll create a new one here. Just so I can pull up this one. I was watching one pulp, 13297. Oop. Did I not get that right? 13297. Huh, I must have got that wrong. Let me see. Hold on 1 second here. Oh, 13223. There we go. So there was this pulp, this spicy Western stories. And it was just one that, like, whenever I see the ones that start with spicy, those are usually like the bigger books. Like those are often the title. Like that's one thing I've learned with pulps is that spicy usually means value. And but I was just like, this is one where I was just trying to figure out how do you price this book. And so, I went down to where you can see prior sales, because pricing pulps is very difficult because there's not like a GPA for it. There's not a GPA or a go collect or anything. And so, and since eBay only keeps the sales for a few months, you don't have a really long-term, record for it. So I was just looking at these and I was like, you've got, let's do it by, yes, we've got by most recent sales. There was a VF that sold for 5,640 in 2023 in January. But then the last sale before that was July of 2020 for a VG Fine that went for $720. And this one to me looked significantly better. Now, maybe, it looks like it has some chew in the upper corner and maybe a little, like maybe there's more spine wear or something. This one has a lot more creasing on the cover. But I was like, okay, so maybe it goes for a little bit more, because like the Fine, Very Fine was 1560 back in 2020. I mean, I had no idea how to price this book. I think I priced it at like 800 and it just, went for double that. I have zero confidence in my ability to price out and value pulps. And so I largely steer clear of them, but every once in a while I'll check one out just to see. And I mean, I do not trust my ability to price those books out. I haven't seen Guardians yet, so I can't tell you if it's what it's time to buy or sell related to that movie. But yeah, so now what I want to do is I want to get into first the top 5 high sales that I saw tonight. So these are the surprising 5 high sales that I saw tonight. And the first one, you got a little preview of it, was this Eerie #1. Now, I have had a copy of this book before. It's pretty cool cover. This is the second, I kind of call it the second volume for Eerie, because the first Eerie #1 is that first horror comic. This is one that comes a little bit later. That one was in, I think, 1947. This one's in 1951. And I had this book estimated to go for $1,000, beat my estimate by 20%, went for $1,200. And its record from just September of last year was 1,080. So this was a nice, like, strong sale for this book. Just a ghoulish cover. You've got I got a buddy that he's always looking for he's trying to put together like the women in tubes covers. And so I think this is going to be one that has to be on his list. If he doesn't have this one already, he's definitely gonna have to watch out for that one. Let me check this question first. Are you now getting more into Archie, or have you always been? You taught me all about PCH, and now you're teaching me about Archie. Yeah, so not specifically. I've always liked the more rare books. So the ones from the World War II era and a little bit later into the 40s, and then the innuendo covers that tend to come a little bit later. They've always, I've always liked those. They're just always interesting to me. He's such a major character that has consistently been around for, 70, 80, well, let's see, what are we now, like 80 years. And so he's just been around for so long that it's just an interesting character to me. And I talked about this in the video today. I like how peps are really interesting, because you've got stories like Archie in there, and right next to it, you have stories with Hangman literally murdering people on the pages. And so it's this crazy mix of stuff that is in those pep comics that it's just really interesting to me to see that out there. And it's where you start to get the idea where the whole Comics Code Authority came from. Because you have a kid where he's like, oh, I want to see Archie, and then one story earlier you've got a guy getting hung on the cover. So for his opinion, pulps are kind of trash. Super cool covers, but that's it. Junk interior. Breathe on it and edges turn to dust. Yeah, I don't understand that market. I agree. They have cool covers, which the thing is, a lot of the golden age, that's what you're buying. Like this, you're buying the cool golden age covers. And so that's where I can see the crossover. But my issue with pulps is that I have zero idea about rarity, census, like what is actually the desirable books, because a lot of times you'll see a cover that's maybe like really cool like this on a pulp and it's worth like $50, and then there's one that seems kind of bland and it's worth 5,000. And I just don't understand that market. And so I've largely steered clear of it. But yeah, let's move on to number 2 on the surprising high sales here. So this is a pretty well-known book. This is Tomb of Terror, number 15. So they had this one graded as a 3.0. Now it's a raw. My concern is, would it actually get a 3.0? That was my biggest concern with this book. So I had estimated this book's value at 3,500, beat my estimate by 30%, beat my estimate by I got something wrong there. Yeah, beat my estimate by 30%. And so if you look at the notes with this one, it says it's missing the original staples, and the book is held together with 2 additional staples that were added after manufacturing. I don't know. This would be one where I would be very not confident in my submission to CGC on how they would treat this book because those staples are gone. Now, if you don't have the staples, it's kind of weird how it seems to work. It's like they didn't put the staples back in the staple holes, like they're trying to, hide that it was a replaced staple. So usually you're not going to get a restored label, I don't think, for it. But I think they're going to treat it like there are no staples there. And I don't know if you can get a 3.0 with this. I'd also be very concerned about how strong that spine is. Like if there's a bunch of spine splitting somewhere in there, because usually those staples aren't missing for no reason. It's usually because there's a lot of fragility or something at that spine and they came out. And so, yeah, it is a very nice presenting copy, like great colors, pretty good edges and everything. But that spine made me very nervous. And so I wasn't valuing it like a 3.0. This sale was like this was a 3.0, but I would be a little concerned when this goes into CGC, what it would actually get. So, I mean, I know sometimes people that buy this stuff watch the channel or they follow me on Instagram, that kind of thing. So, I mean, if whoever bought this does, I'd be interested in seeing what it comes back as if it gets sent into CGC. Because this one, that was my big concern with this book, is I did not trust what this would ultimately grade out as because it did not have the staples. All right, let's move on to number 3 here. So this one, not something you see very often. This was a single page from Detective Comics number 27. This is page 10. This was not a Batman page. So, I mean, if it's a Batman page, they go for way, way more. But this is not a Batman page. This one, I had estimated it at $1,050. The prior record was $1,050 from 2021. Now, I had looked at other non-Batman pages, and they didn't really seem to have changed in value all that much. And so that's why I kept it about the same, even though it was 2 years ago. Beat my estimate by 49% with a $1,560 sale. So really strong sale, in my opinion, for this page. And yeah, not a Batman page, but still a page from the book that had the first appearance of Batman in it. And the interesting thing was that there was also a Action 1 page that sold, and I felt like that one went really low. It was also a non-Superman page, but that one went low. But this, in my opinion, this one went pretty high. Was a really strong sale. All right, now to number 4. This one, I've been talking about these a lot, and they still surprise me when you get these sales. This is Authentic Police Cases number 23. So this is a Matt Baker cover, and Matt Baker covers, just anytime you seem to get them in an upper mid grade, somewhere in the 6s, or I mean, 7s are rare. So something in the 6s, you get big sales for those books. So this was a new record. I had estimated this book would sell for $600. The prior record was $180 from 2015. So it was 8 years ago, but still, I mean, this one, I think a 4.0 sold for around $250. But once you get into these like upper mid grades where they're pretty rare in grade, you just end up having really strong sales for those books. Because let's see how many are actually in grade. So at a 6.5, there are only 4 higher out of a total of 15 universal copies. And so, I mean, it's just, there aren't hardly any in high grades. I mean, let's take a look at that. I mean, look at this. There's 170, 180, and 285s. There's not even a 9. For whatever reason, these books from St. John Publications, whether it's Authentic Police Cases or a bunch of the different romance covers or romance titles, they get big numbers. So if you are looking for something if you find a book that's from one of these titles that's in an upper mid grade and you find it for a good price, it's probably worth picking up because they just seem to carry a lot of value. And and this is interesting here. So we've got Malibu Comics, you were the underbidder and you viewed it as a 2.5. Yeah, that's what I graded it as well. I was thinking 2.5, but I was still nervous that it might not get a universal label. I wasn't sure because, like, I know sometimes if you submit books that don't have staples, you'll get qualified labels. And anytime you've got those other color labels, like, it can really hurt the value of your book. And so that was my main concern with that one. All right, now I got to block this person. Block user. All right, taken care of. All right. Hey, Joel. Yeah, thanks for joining the stream. So right now what we're doing is we're going over the top 5 surprising high sales from the auction tonight. And so this was number 4. This is Authentic Police Cases, number 23. Now the most surprising high sale that I saw was this one. And this made me laugh when I saw this one come up as the most surprising high sale. This is Batman number 66, 7-0. And I had it estimated at $1,600. The prior record was $1,550 from 2020, but this book had been relatively flat in other grades. And so I wasn't really expecting a big sale from it. It sold for $2,520, beat my estimate by 58%. And the reason I was laughing about this one is that this is the one that the reason it's most well known is because of the Joker boner joke that's in the storyline. That's what this book is known for. I wonder if they even put it in the no, they didn't put it in the description. I thought maybe they would, but they didn't put it in the description. Now, the reason that this was especially surprising to me is that there were a number of nice Batman books, like early-ish Golden Age Batman books that were in this, and most of them went for around what I expected them to go for. This one, though, just this one went for way above my estimate, and I thought I just got a kick out of it. It made me laugh. Let's see, what was... I remember a number 1 oh gosh, man. So this is Thomas Palmer. He says, I remember a number 1 cutout from the cover of Action 1 going for $7,000 in a CGC holder. It looked ridiculous in the holder. Yes, I remember that video. It was Dave with Comic Book Investments put out that video about that Action 1 number 1 selling for that number. I think this might have been on Comic Connect, something like that. I must have watched that video that he put out like 5 times because I was just cracking up. The way that he was described, I would recommend going back in his history and trying to find it because the way that he described that sale just made me laugh so hard. Also, the funny thing was they made it white pages. How do you make that tiny little one white pages? There were no pages that were part of that book. I don't know how you even give it a page quality. So I remember that was so funny. I was cracking up when I saw that. All right. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go on to the top 5 surprising low sales. So this is what I always like to talk about when I'm going over these auction results, because like we talked about a little bit earlier, there are always high sales and there are always low sales. And so, I mean, if you're the person that's selling the books, like Heritage or Comic Link or Comic Connect, you want to advertise your high sales. They're the ones that you really want to put out there. But it's also good to know that there are deals out there too. Even when there are high sales, there are big records, there are also deals out there. And that's what most of these, I would say, are deals. Now, sometimes it's that the books are going down, especially what we were experiencing over the last year. You could have sales that are below your estimates, but that's just because that book is dropping so fast that it just keeps failing to meet the estimated prices over and over again. Whereas a lot of times, especially with Golden Age, since they don't sell as often, a lot of times it is like somebody getting a good deal on that book. So the first one, I was actually the underbidder on this one. I was busy during this auction, and so I didn't have a chance to actually bid on it live. I don't know if I would have thrown in another bid or not, but first one here was Marvel Mystery Comics number 82. So there you can see my underbidder bid of $3,240, sold for $3,360. Now, I do have people ask about that quite a bit, about the buyer's premium and everything, because I know the buyer's premium rubs people the wrong way a lot of times. I think it's not something you necessarily really need to focus on. All you really need to focus on as the buyer is that final number. I don't even look at the bid. I pay no attention to this 2,700 number. It means nothing to me. The only number that matters is this number, the number plus the buyer's premium. the only people that should really care about the buyer's premium are the sellers, because the sellers aren't getting that. That's going to Heritage. So, maybe they work out a deal and they get some percentage of it. I don't know. But most of the time, that's Heritage's profit that they're making on the sale. And so as a buyer, I couldn't care less about that buyer's premium. All I care about is the final number that the book is selling for. And so I think a lot of times they, just get distracted by this, this extra amount here, but you don't really have to worry about it. Oh, that's really funny. So this is Jeffrey Ross. I'm glad you were distracted. That was my win. Well, at least I made you pay a little bit more for it. So I always joke about that. In the one of the things I really enjoy about auctions is it feels like a competition. I like the idea of throwing those bids in and having. Now I didn't like it when I lost that Pep Comics 26, and someone at the last second kept bidding me up, and I ultimately ended up losing it. And so it goes both ways. I mean, I know other people are doing it too, but yeah, no, congratulations on that win. I think that was a great buy because, like I said, this was one of the surprising low sales to me. I had estimated this book at $4,400. The prior record just from April of this year was $4,431. So this was below that estimate by 24%. So yeah, congratulations. That was a great buy for you. And sad for me because I didn't end up getting it. Because if you're not familiar with this one, this is the origin and first appearance of Namora. And so you don't get those first appearances all that often in the Golden Age, and you especially don't get first appearances where they're on the cover. And so that's one of the things that makes this a big deal, is that not only is it this, Golden Age first appearance, it's also a first appearance that's on the cover, which just makes this an even more, special book, key in my opinion. All right. So now number 2, now this one, there are some reasons maybe that this one went low. Now you can see there is a fair amount of writing on the cover. And so some people, that's a big deterrent. Me, normally I'm okay with writing, but this is a little bit more distracting. And so I could see why that could hurt the value some, but it seemed to hurt it quite a bit potentially, because I had estimated that this book would go for $4,600. The prior record was $4,200 from July of 2022. And so this was below my estimate by 24%. So I think regardless that this was a good deal, but that's probably why, because when you're doing an auction, you're counting on having those people there, multiple people bidding. And if you have, say, 5 people that were interested in this book, and 2 of them are like, I don't really want the ink on the cover, the pen on the cover, then you have less people that are ultimately competing for that book. And so that could have been the reason it went a little bit lower, but I still think that was a great price given other prior sales for this book. So this was number 2, Superboy number 1, and a 6.5 that went 24% below my estimate. And so now let's check out number 3. So Batman again. So this was actually one that went low. Most of the other Batman books went right around my estimate. This one went pretty low in my opinion. This is just a Joker cover. There's not anything really key about it other than the fact that, people like to collect Joker covers. I am one of those people. I like to collect Joker covers. And so this is Batman number 40 and a 5.5. I estimated that this book would sell for $1,650. Now this book hadn't sold since July of 2020. And at that point it went for $805. So this was a record, but I still felt like it went low based on what other grades have sold for. For example, a 5.0 in August of last year went for $1,560. So I felt like whoever got this for a good price. It was just went lower than what I expected, because those Joker covers, they're always in demand. He's the most popular villain, or one of the most popular villains in the world, one of the longest running villains, if not the longest running villain. And so his covers, especially in the Golden Age, are always in demand. So I think somebody got a great pickup on that one. Now, number 4. This one was a little more affordable book, not, the multiple thousands of dollars like a lot of the other books I've talked about. This was Dark Mysteries number 18. I like these Dark Mysteries covers. They are really well drawn, detailed skeleton covers. There's multiple skeleton covers like this that are in here. Some are more expensive than others, but this one I felt like went for a great deal. I had estimated that this book would sell for $600, went for $432, which is 28% below my estimate. The record just from March of this year was $600. So I think whoever got this picked it up for a great price. Color strike looks really nice, like great colors on this one. And if you see, these guys are coming back to kill this butcher because they sold them poison meat that killed them. But yeah, I've always think that the skulls that are part of in the skeleton detail and everything that's on these dark mystery covers always just look really, really impressive. So they always catch my attention. Whenever I see these books from this run coming up for sale, I'm always watching those. There was one other Dark Mysteries book that sold as well in this auction. I think maybe one issue earlier. Yeah, this one here. I think it also went low. So this is Dark Mysteries number 15, went for $240. I had this one estimated at $325. So this one I think was about 26% below my estimate. So another one that went for a good deal in my opinion. And again, you've got that same type of skull, just really good detail, a lot of detail put into the skulls and skeletons and everything that are on these covers. All right, now for number one, the most surprising low sale that I saw was Tales from the Crypt number 29. Now this is a raw copy, VG copy, and I always like the Tales from the Crypt books. I mean, you can't really go too wrong with pre-code horror books from the EC runs. And this is an example of that. And this one, I had the estimate at $400, went for $228, 43% below my estimate. I think whoever picked this one up got a great buy. If I had been paying attention, I 100% would have made this person pay a little bit more for this book. I would have been bidding on this one to try to win this book. So I didn't win this one though. I didn't bid on it. So whoever got it, congratulations on your pickup. But yeah, so those were the top 10 surprising sales, 5 on the high side, 5 on the low side that I saw tonight. And I just thought this would be something fun to do because, like I said, the auctions end a little earlier. So I'm able to, get all that data, process it, look at it, and see which ones are really those big high and low sales. And then we've got Dark Mysteries has a bunch of gnarly skeleton covers. Awesome content and cheap. 2 5s to 3 5s for $200 to $300. Yeah, I agree. That's why it's always, there are so many titles out there when you're talking about Golden Age with pre-code horror, and that you don't have to necessarily spend a ton of money to get into it. If it's something you're interested in, now it's always going to be, potentially that there isn't going to be that as much demand for the books. And so you don't know how prices are going to change over time. But if your goal is to just try to get some cool pre-code horror covers, yeah, there's a lot of variety, and Dark Mysteries is one of them. There are some issues from that title that are very expensive. I think one of them, maybe it's 19, has the woman that's on that stretcher. We can check that out. I think it's 19. If it's not, we can figure it. Yeah, this one. Like this book is quite expensive, and it's because it's got the skeleton element with the good girl art and the bondage stuff and all of that. And so when you have that, I can maybe zoom in on this one a little more. So when you have those extra elements on the covers, then you do tend to get much more expensive books. So let's see, for example, this one. Yeah, when you're talking about in that 2.5 to 3.5 range, it's $1,000 to $1,500 book. It's selling for 5 times what those other ones are. But that's what happens when you add that extra element to the cover that brings in more demand for the book. You get much more expensive books, but a lot of them are pretty affordable covers. And we've got Comic Book 1962. I love all EC and think the runs like Impact, Valor, and Piracy are not appreciated. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of those they've got that code up in the corner. They're right after the code was established. Not all of them. I think Impact 1 doesn't have the code, but I think 2 and 3 do, or it's 1 and 2 don't, and 2 and 3 do, something like that. It's when they were trying to make that transition to see if they could save EC by putting out other titles, and they just couldn't do it. Those that they were done pretty soon after that. Other than things like Mad, I mean, they still had the magazines that they were able to keep going on. But yeah, the comic side was pretty much done. Now, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer other questions, that kind of thing. But I did have another topic over here that I'd been thinking about making a video about this, but I figured I might not have time to do it. It's always difficult trying to find enough time to put together these videos and capture all the screenshots and all this kind of stuff. So I thought maybe I would throw it into a live stream. So what this is about is this is the CGC price change. Now, I know a lot of that. Let's go. So now I know a lot of that conversation already happened. Now the problem is that I was on vacation when that price change came out, so I couldn't film anything, like an outrage video or anything like that with here, let's remove this for now. So I couldn't film an outrage video or anything like that when it came to the CGC price change, because I was away, didn't have my computer, and I guess I could have filmed like a live with my phone or something. But the thing is, I mean, we're now a couple weeks afterwards, and I like everybody predicted, we've all basically forgotten about it and don't care anymore. And so that's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but I'm back. All right, I mentioned earlier I was maybe having some trouble with internet. I don't know if that's what that was or what, but so one of the things I had wanted to talk about, like I said, was the CGC, was the CGC price change. So if you're not familiar, which I think most people probably are, because everybody was talking about it when it came out, was that CGC made an announcement that they're updating their prices. Now, can you see me now? Can you see or hear me, I guess? Uh-oh. So if somebody can give me a heads up if I, okay, it's good now. All right, great. I think there's some lag in the chat, so I just wanted to make sure. So this is the announcement that CGC made back on April, or would it be? Yeah, April 18th. And so, I mean, the reality is it wasn't that big of an update in terms of cost. It's not a huge deal for most people. So if you're submitting modern tier, it went up $1. If you're submitting economy tier, it went up $2. And if you're submitting standard tier, it went up $5. Now, the big thing is it got rid of express tier. And now I've talked about that. I know like Bryce Comics has talked about that, and it totally sucks that you can't use express tier now as the way to, like get your books processed quicker. Now, to be fair, I've noticed that they are processing books a lot quicker anyway. It used to be that it's like if you didn't do that, it would take like a month before CGC would open the box that you sent. But I sent one, let's see, maybe a month and a half ago, that didn't have anything like express or walkthrough where you mark the outside of the box, and they opened it in like 2 days. So maybe that's not as necessary right now, but that's what, like the little like hack that a lot of people would use was you just send in one express book, and then you get to write the EX on the side of the box, and everybody can just get in. Now, if you want to do that, you have to use walkthrough, which costs a little bit more. And the other big change for walkthrough is that it's still $150 minimum fee, but they're changing it to 4% of value instead of 3%. So what that means is that if you had a $5,000 book, that's the $150 mark, and anything above a $5,000 book is now going to cost you more. But now at 4% of value, it's like, I don't know, 3,800, something like that. And anything above 3,800 is now going to cost you more. So yeah, it hurts the people that are sending in really expensive books a little bit more. It's not as big a deal now for the other ones. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about though, is that I was looking through this, and let's see. Yeah, well, oh yeah, so we can bring that up. So the price increase really only hurts if CGC adheres to the value limits per tier. Now, I mean, I don't know. I know some people, they will like only like they'll stick to like the value level of the tier. Like if they've got a book that's worth $500, they're going to send it in the standard tier instead of the economy tier. Me, I'm going to try to fit it in as the lowest tier I possibly can. And if CGC wants to check the values of all the books that I submit and raise the price on what I have to pay, then they can do that. But, like as long as it's like within reason, I'm submitting, books that are below, or that are worth more than their tier. Now, the other reason that I justify that to myself is that what if I miss something? What if there's a cutout on the inside, or what if there's some restoration? Then I'm paying for that higher value tier. And then when they grade it, it's now, like maybe it's in the lower tier, and they're not going to refund my money because of that. Like it doesn't go the other way. Like they aren't refunding your money if you submit in a tier. And then because I've had that happen. I had a couple books that I thought were going to be like much higher grade. And this is when I earlier this year, or I guess last year, when I started realizing how hard tanning was getting hit, and they got grades lower than I expected because of that tanning. And they don't refund you, if now that book could have fit into the into the economy tier, and I sent it in the standard tier. So I'm doing it I'm doing it both ways. So, but yeah, now I was looking at this, and the thing though that caught my attention, where I was like, oh, I don't even care about this price increase now, was on this page. So this is the page where they've got their, their services and fees all laid out. And this is all updated. And you can see here, we've got the comics, and, there's the price and the fast track and all of that. Now, the thing that I noticed was, as I was scrolling down, was when I got to magazines. Now, I'm sure this wasn't updated exactly at that time. I got to share my screen now. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. All right. So let's cut back here. So this is the screen that I was just talking about. So this is the CGC services and fees page. And so this is where they specifically lay out all of their timelines, or estimated timelines, for how long it takes to grade a book, and then how much each one of those costs. And so, yeah, this is where you had the modern that went up $1, vintage went up, which was standard, but it's now called vintage, went up $2. You have the express that went away, or what is it? No, then you have the high value that was standard. And it's like, then you have the unlimited, which was the walkthrough. So, I mean, yeah, it's a little confusing how they changed all the names, but basically you have modern is still the same. Then you had economy, which is now vintage. You had standard, which is now high value. You have unlimited, which is walkthrough, and express went away. Now, as I was scrolling down, the thing that caught my attention was the magazines. Now, it's a couple things. I have received one of their new magazine slabs. When I submitted my All Flash #1, it was too big to fit in because it was brittle pages, and it was just, you couldn't get it where it was tight enough, basically, to fit within the confines of a normal size slab. So it came back in one of the magazine ones. Those magazine slabs are nice. I will say they are exactly like the normal comic slabs in terms of feel and clarity. Like I was joking with someone else, and we were making the joke that basically like the old comic slabs, or the old magazine slabs, like you breathe on them or look at them the wrong way and they crack. But these ones feel very stable and, very nice. So I was happy with that. But the thing I noticed was this fast track. That was never part of magazines before. You never had an option for fast track. And I love seeing that, because I have a ton of magazines I want to send in. I had bought that magazine collection, and it was a bunch of high grade Vampirellas and Eries and, things like that. And I have some TMNTs I want to send in. That is from the first print, that those need to go into those magazine tiers. And I was just dreading sending them in. One, because it used to be that the modern and vintage tiers, they had like 270-day turnaround times. And that's business days. That is over a year to turn around. And I'd heard it was worse than that. Like they would say 270, but it would take even longer. And so I was just dreading having to send anything in. And now it's down to 60 days, but you can actually fast track. You could never fast track before. And so that is a big plus to me, that we now have an option to fast track magazines where you can get them back in 10 days. I mean, even if that's not accurate, say it's 20, who cares? Like that is 250 business days faster than it used to be. And so this to me was a big, big plus. So anybody that has been holding off on sending in magazines, when I saw this, definitely something that really, really caught my attention, and something that I'm going to be definitely taking advantage of and submitting those in. I'm glad that I was kind of procrastinating on sending in those magazines. I was originally planning to send them in a couple months ago, because I was just like, oh, I just need to get this started. so that I'll eventually get them back in, you know, a year and a half. And now I can get them back in 10 business days. So, I mean, for anybody that has been holding out on, you know, sending in magazines because maybe the time frame was too long and you never know if you're going to get them back, make sure, you know, you've got this now. I mean, you have the fast track option, and I would use it. I still don't want to wait 3 months. I would pay the extra $15 and get them back faster. But yeah, definitely something that I would consider. All right. So he says, if you send in books that you try to say are 400 but are really 1,000, will they ever slap you with the worst grade to match the price? No, no, they won't. I have never seen that happen from any of the books that I've sent in, and I've definitely had books that are in that $400 tier that are higher. Now, the thing where you're going to get, they're definitely going to catch you on like well-known keys. So don't even bother trying something like that with like a Hulk 181 or, you know, an X-Men 266 or, you know, something like that. That's an extremely recognizable book. But if it's some like rare golden age book, I mean, they're not going to know. And they're, you know, are they going to spend the time to look them all up? Maybe, maybe not. But I haven't experienced that. So yeah, I mean, there are some cases where you're definitely going to get caught, and it's going to be like those big bronze and silver age keys. But if you're sending in some like high grade run filler that, you know, maybe it's worth $1,000 if you catch a 9.8 or something like that, send it in the economy tier, you know, or the vintage tier, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Send an AF-15 fast track economy. You could try it. You know, I'm sure you could try it, but I guarantee you you're gonna get a big added charge onto your bill. Like that, those are the ones where you might as well just send it in fast track. Now, the funny thing is though, that the first books that I got back from CGC were my moderns. The second books that are about to come back, I think, were my fast track economy. And so I paid, you know, you pay extra money for like the standard and the express, but they're taking longer than the moderns and the fast track economies. So the reality is maybe, you know, you send it in fast track economy, they upcharge you, but you actually get it graded faster than if you send it in walkthrough. I mean, maybe that's the way to use that. Then we've got, I sent some Silver Age books on the express tier and others on the standard tier, and they came back on the same day. I should have sent them all on the standard. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about, where the estimates, I mean, they are just estimates, but like for me, this high value tier, the standard tier, has been taking a long time. My last standard submission took over a month, and they have it as 10 days. I was just like, is this thing sitting in a corner somewhere or what? But then my modern, I got that back in under a week. I mean, they graded that in, I think they opened it on like the 26th, and they had it shipped out, I think, on the 28th of April. I mean, that's how fast the turnaround was on the moderns. So yeah, like they are really quick down here, even though the days don't seem to say that, because I did not fast track that either. That was 2 days standard, like just a normal modern submission. ASM1 golden record equals vintage. Yep. Yeah. Well, it also depends on the grade, but that one, almost any grade is going to be above $400, but that one you might not be able to slip through just because it's such a recognizable cover. Yep. Hey Dan, thanks for joining the live stream. I was just talking about one of the things, like we had this price increase with CGC, and you know, everybody was kind of upset about it. Now I get that they've increased the prices. I get that they've increased the prices multiple times over the last couple of years, and that's what can be a little unnerving. In that, you know, are we now in a state where every 6 months or whatever it is, they're going to keep increasing prices, and that's where it can start really, you know, getting a little more frustrating. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I don't work for CGC, so but that's where I think more of the frustration comes from. To be fair, though, I mean, I remember when everybody was up in arms during kind of like the lockdowns and COVID, and CGC raised their prices when they hadn't raised their price for like 2 or 3 years prior to that. So yeah, I mean, maybe they should have probably raised it more before, and they didn't, and now they're playing catch up. We also know that they're now owned by, you know, another entity, and so it's maybe that's the reason that they're raising prices. Who knows? But I mean, $25 isn't that much, and especially if you use like a presser, like I do, like I have the comic book presser, so I submit my books with. he gets the 15% dealer discount. And so if you use someone like that, you can get the 15% discount. And so $1 is 85 cents. I guess I use my own submission. And so I have the 10% discount. And so, it's not a huge deal to me. But yeah, I can see where if it continues that trend, like every 6 months, it goes up $1, like that becomes more significant pretty quickly. Let's see. I just got 12 Golden Age vintage tier books back in 20 business days. I was shocked. Yeah. They are really processing through books pretty fast right now. Dan, I just sent my heavy hitters to EGS. I sent my Avengers 1, 2, 3, Silver Surfer 4, Fantastic 452, Marvel Spotlight 5. No way in hell I'm sending to CGC. I mean, yeah, that's your choice. You get to send wherever you want to. I don't know what you do in terms of like sales and everything like that, or if everything is PC books that you're keeping. Because yeah, for sales, CGC is the place to send your books. It's just the most demand for them, and they demand the highest price. So that's really the one of the main reasons that I use CGC is that I have CBCS books, for example, but they are always harder to sell. The CGC versions of them just sell faster, and same thing goes with EGS. Now, let's see. Swag had a good point that the price increase and dissolving express mainly hurts people submitting in the 1 to 3,000 value range. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if you're in the lower end of that, you can still get those into the high value tier, the former standard tier. That's probably what it's more likely that I'm going to do is I'm just, instead of sending it into the unlimited tier, I'm just going to shift it down to the high value tier. And if they want to charge me more, if they want to look them up, they can do it. It's just, I'm going to err on that side instead of, going on the express side. So that's just me. That's how I'm going to probably end up handling that. But we'll see. Well, ultimately how that goes. But yeah, that was most of what I wanted to talk about tonight. I mean, there were a couple other things I thought we could maybe discuss here, and that was just this was the sales from tonight, and there weren't any like real big heavy hitters tonight on Heritage. I mean, the most expensive book was the one that we already talked about. That was this Tomb of Terror. Maybe I can. It's probably pretty small here. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. The biggest one was this Tomb of Terror 15, this raw that sold for 4,560. Next one, this was a pretty good sale. I had this one estimated going for 3,800. If you're not familiar with this book, this is Shock Suspense Stories number 6. It's a Wally Wood cover, and the biggest book from this run. And it has that kind of the feeling like Suspense Comics number 3 a little bit. That's I think one of the big draws too of this book. And so this is a strong sale, 43,000 or 4,320. Like I said, I had that one at 3,800. Then we had the Superboy one, which we talked about, the Marvel Mystery 82 that we talked about, Batman 44. Let me check how that one did compared to my estimate. So I had that one estimated going for 3,100. Its prior record was 2,250. So it was a new record, but it didn't meet my estimate, but it was only low by 7%, and like 7% in a book that's multiple thousands of dollars, like, and that doesn't sell very often, like Golden Age, it's about as close as you can really hope to get. These ones I've also seen, these have been going for big numbers. I keep seeing these assorted hardcover, like old books. This was, I don't know how many were in here, 50 books, and sold for $2,700. Like these lots, I don't know anything about old books, but these lots have been selling for a lot of money. I've seen these near the top of the sales numbers multiple times, and this is no exception. And so that's been one that I hadn't really seen before, that I've started seeing pop up in these sales. Let's see what else. The Batman 23. This is just another cool Joker cover. 6.0. I had this one estimated at, let's see here. I had this one estimated at 2,600 and went for 2,640. So pretty much right on point for where I figured this one would sell for. So yeah, just one of the earlier Joker covers from the Batman run. Let's see. So Dan says, those books he was talking about were for his PC, but more importantly, you trust the grading from EGS. He's lost complete trust in CGC. I mean, I honestly have it. I mean, the books I get back still get the grades that I expect them to. The main issue I've had is I have had a couple books that appear to have been, damaged when they're handling them. And so I have seemed to, I've mitigated that largely by, if I'm worried about a spine, it comes down to it's fragile spines. That's where I seem to run into the issue. And so I talked about this in another video. I put a sticky note on those books now. I just say, fragile spine, be careful. And since I've started doing that, I have had no issues. So I think it's just, I have no idea how many books a CGC grader grades a day. I don't know if it's 1,000 or a 200 or 500 or what. And I think that they probably have to go through a lot of books. And so if there's something that you're worried about on a book, I know it's kind of seems ridiculous. We have to say that, but you as the submitter are going to care a lot more about that book than them as the grader. And so, if you're worried about that book, which, sometimes if it's a fragile spine, I add that note to those books. Let's see. So aside from eBay and Instagram, which places would you use to sell books? Comic Link, My Comic Shop, or Heritage? So, I mean, I can only really tell you, like, I'm not going to recommend something that I don't use to sell. And so for me, I sell on eBay, and I don't really sell on Instagram other than if people reach out to me. I've never set up a live. So I've thought about doing it. I've never done it. I think the idea of potentially selling 15 or 20 books at once and having to pack them all just sounds so horrible to me that I've never wanted to do an Instagram live sale. Maybe someday. But that's why for me, I use eBay, and I like eBay. I like selling on eBay. I like the set it and forget it, thing that goes with it, because I can list the books and then they're up there, and then eBay takes care of, advertising them. And so that works for me. If you're talking about other auction platforms, some of it I think depends on what you're selling. And, you do always have to look at the fees. So you've got Heritage has, I think, the highest fees. Now, if you're selling big books or a lot of books, my understanding is that you can make agreements with them and you can get those fees down some, but they definitely have the highest fees out of all those main sites. Then you've got Comic Connect, who used to have the same fees as Comic Link. It used to be 10%, but a lot of their books now, they're adding a buyer's premium to it. And so same as Heritage, where it's like a 15% buyer's premium. So you have to be careful when you're bidding on Comic Connect that you see if that book has a buyer's premium, because the difference is on Heritage, it is very obvious when you're bidding what the buyer's premium is. It adds it to it right in front of you, so you know what you're bidding. Comic Connect, you don't. It says 15% will be added afterwards. So if you bid 3,000, you're going to be paying 3,450, and you may not realize it if you don't see that note. And I've heard a number of people that have had that happen to them. And so Comic Connect, yeah, they've got that added buyer's premium now. So you got to be a little careful with that on some of their listings. Comic Link is probably the cheapest out there. I think they're just 10% with no buyer's premium. I don't believe they've added anything like that. So they're just 10%. I don't know what the fees are at Hakes, so I can't speak to that. So in terms of cheapest, probably Comic Link. Comic Link, I think, gets comparable sales prices, as everybody else. Now, there are certain types of books I've noticed sell better on certain platforms than others. And so that's something that you maybe have to consider, whether it's Golden Age or certain types of Golden Age or whatever it is, or like original art. I feel like original art does really well on Heritage. If I was selling original art, I would sell it there. But that's just, from something I've noticed. But yeah, that's where the other option you probably have is My Comic Shop. My Comic Shop is another good one. I think they're also 10%. And so you could go that route. I think them and Comic Link are about the cheapest options you have. You might not get as high a numbers, but I think they're generally going to be comparable. I know ETA Nick, who he is always very focused on his bottom line. He sent everything to Comic Link. So take that for what it's worth. He was using that all the time for the books that he was sending in to sell. Do you tell the presser to add the note? No, I would put it on I guess you kind of could, but probably not. You wouldn't necessarily want to add some extra step there. So when you're sending your book in, and you have whatever the book in the, but usually you don't always want to send it in Mylars. Mylars are going to have a risk that the book gets damaged by CGC because they're very sharp edges. I would recommend probably just using the regular poly bags, but just stick it on in the poly bag when you send it into the presser. Hey Ryan, have you noticed CGC backing off tanning at all, or are they still hitting it hard? I'm trying to think if I've sent in anything with really bad tanning recently. I don't remember if I've sent anything in that I was concerned about that lately. It was that one submission. I had multiple books that had that type of thing, and I was expecting higher grades, and I did not get them. So I can't really speak to it. I doubt they have, though. It seems like, because I have heard that from other people that submit a lot of books as well, that they saw similar things, and so I haven't heard from anybody that they've dialed that back. So Aussie comic book collector, can you please give me a shout out for my YouTube channel? I show off my 20,000 comic collection and film my storage unit in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, go check out Aussie comic book collector. Yeah, if you want to put the link to your channel in the chat, go for it. And then we've got keep in mind people are getting tighter with their money. Let's see. I don't know if there was a prior. I don't know if that's about the CGC prices going up or what that's in reference to, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I know that's where it can't. I mean, honestly, like if that caused people to submit less like low dollar modern tier books, like just like the super modern stuff, like in massive bulk, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Maybe that helps books get processed quicker. But the reality is modern books get processed so fast right now. Like I said, I sent mine in non-fast track and they were done in 2 days. So I don't think moderns are really impacting anything at this point. It seems like the slowest tier right now for me has been standard. Standard has been the slowest tier that I've experienced so far. Modern and economy go real fast. Express is slower than what they say it's going to be, but only by a few days. It's right around there. Standard is the one that I've really noticed is slow. Well, so Comic Link doesn't have a 3%. So this comment was Comic Link has a 3% buyer's premium. Hakes Like Heritage shows the possible final price with the buyer's premium 18% throughout the auction. So Comic Link doesn't have a 3% buyer's premium. They have a 3% credit card fee. So Heritage has the same thing. If you want to pay with credit card, you're paying, I believe, a 3% fee, maybe a 4% fee. If you pay Comic Link with a check, they waive that fee. So to me, that's not a buyer's premium. That's a credit card processing fee. So that's why I bought some books in the latest Comic Link auction. I just sent them a check, and it's so I don't have that 3%. So I don't really. I think they call it a buyer's premium on their site, but it's not really. It's in my mind, it's a credit card processing fee that they're charging you. Let's see. Dave from Comic Book Investments Auction isn't a bad option. Also, oh no, yeah, that I forgot about that. That is, you are 100% correct. I've watched a few of those, and I have been impressed with the numbers that he's getting, and he doesn't charge anything. I still don't understand. I would love for him to explain the business model, like if it's just to get more people to his site, because he's got to pack all that stuff up. Like that's a lot of work. Like packing up 1,000 books to ship out and like listing them on the site, because he takes 0%. And so he's like, I don't think he's getting anything from selling those books other than the traffic to his site. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what the idea is that, by having this really affordable way to sell books, like it'll get more people to the site and buy other books. And so that could be it, but yeah, no, I mean, I 100% agree, especially because you have no fees. That is a great option, because if what you've really got to look at when you're selling books is what your bottom line is. Like if you have a book that at Heritage sells for $2,000, on eBay sells for $1,900, on Dave with Comic Book Investments sells for $1,800. The place that you actually get the most money is Dave's site, is Collector's Comics. And so because you've got zero fees, if you've got like 12% fees from eBay, you're only taking home in that case like $1,600 and I don't know what would it be, like $1,680 or something like that. From Heritage, even if you sold for the most, if you're paying a 30% fee, you're taking home $1,400. From his, you're taking home $1,800, even though it was the lowest price because he had no fees. So yes, that is definitely something to consider, that if he's getting comparable numbers, zero fees that's a big difference, especially when you're talking bigger books. Yeah, and here is the link for Aussie Comic Book Collector. So yeah, go check him out if you want to go see the 20,000 book collection that he's going through. And yes, I did an interview with Comic Collector Geek about a month ago now, and so that's when it just came up. That's why in the video I was talking about the last Heritage, like big Heritage signature auction, and but yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun talking with him, and showing books and kind of like I showed a lot of like my progression through collecting from childhood to now, and so yeah, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, make sure you go check out Comic Collector Geek's channel and subscribe and all of that, because we show very similar books. Like he shows a lot of like the older golden age books and that kind of thing too. So if you want to see some cool books, go check out his channel. Yeah, I realize, yeah, that they label it as a buyer's premium, but I mean, in reality is it's the credit card fee. The fact that you can get it removed by sending a check tells me it's a credit card fee. So that's how I view it, at least. Okay, yeah, Heritage is 2.5%. Yeah, so yeah, but that's why with Heritage I always pay cash or whatever, so that I don't have that extra fee. Same thing. What's the gold, silver, bronze mix across your keepers list these days? It is 100% Golden Age now, because the only book that wasn't was my Star Wars 1 35-cent variant, and I just put it up for sale. I did a reevaluation of my keeper list a couple weeks ago, and I've been thinking about, do I want to go for? I kind of want to go for some bigger books and that kind of thing. So I started slashing. So I started slashing the through the list some, and so that's where I sold my Tech 122, that first Catwoman cover, this morning or yesterday, something like that. I sold my Suspense 11 a few days ago on Instagram. I've put up a lot of my Marvel Mystery comics. Like I've started, making a transition, and I'm going to be probably going after some other books because of that. So yeah, no, that's but it is 100% Golden Age at this point. There are some I'm torn on. Like the Tech 122, I was like, I don't know if I want to sell this book, but I was like, I'm trying to go for some other stuff, and so I decided to just make the cuts. The ones that have survived are, I mean, like my top ones, like my Tech 168 is still there. My Crime Suspense Stories 22 is still there. My Captain America 74, then all the Frank Frazetta Famous Funnies are still on it. The one Marvel Mystery I didn't list was my Marvel Mystery 52. I think it's 52. It's like my favorite cover from the run. So I decided that one wasn't going to get cut. And I have my Batman 42 is still on it. Like there are a number that I couldn't make that decision to cut it yet. I mean, who knows how that'll change as I get other books in. But yeah, for now I've made some pretty big cuts to it, but it is all Golden Age on my keeper list right now. Heritage says no fee if you use a debit card and no check hold. Yeah. So yeah, I just use the direct pay. So he says he's building up a base and will charge eventually. Yeah, I figured maybe he would start adding something in, like 1% or 2% or something like that. But yeah, for now, like it really does seem like it's one of the best places to sell where you don't have to do the selling. Like, yeah, the cheapest option is if you want to sell on Instagram and handle your own sales and all of that. But there's a lot of upfront work that goes with that. I mean, you've got to build up an audience, like a following. You've got to have enough subscribers and everything that you can justify the sales and get enough people following your sales. And then, you're the one that's having to run that, and you're having to, usually you need someone else there to help, like, take notes and everything while you're selling. And, it's a bigger production, whereas if you can just send the books off to somewhere else, it's nice to not have to deal with that. And that's where, like, for me with eBay, like, yeah, I have to do all the pictures and everything, but then I just list them and I don't have to think about it until the book sells, and I pack it up and I sell it, and I ship it out. And so that's what I like about eBay. The full model of comic book investments is amazing. More reliable auction sites. Yeah, I've bid on a few things over there. I haven't won anything on an. I've bought a couple books outright from his store, from Collector's Comics, but I haven't ever won one of the auction books yet. Yeah, Alan's collection over at Comic Collector Geek is yeah, it is ridiculous. It is. It seems like he has everything. like I mean, I feel like it's uncommon that there's like a book he doesn't have. Like, he has so many cool books, and so yeah, and you can see it like whenever he's got his videos like on the walls behind him. It's very impressive. Yeah, no, I kind of wish like Shortbox had, and I looked around and I couldn't find anything. Maybe there was. Kind of wish they had some type of live stream or something going there. Like Mickey, Swagglehouse Comics, he was doing he had a speech that he gave there, and I would have liked to have seen that, and so I don't know if maybe someone was streaming, but like I saw A1 was streaming for a little bit from their booth, and they were selling some books there. But like I went to Shortbox like Instagram page and that kind of thing, and I was looking to see if there was like maybe anything where I could go and I could watch some type of live stream. I was really hoping to see that, and I didn't see that. That would have been nice to have that, so you could see some of the presentations and everything that were going on there. Hey Ryan, did you read the message I sent you earlier on Instagram? I don't know. I usually do, but I can't say for sure if it's under the same name or not. I've been, I mean, if it was like within an hour or so before this, or even because I was biking before this, so if it was even like 3 hours before this live stream, I probably haven't seen it yet, because I was getting ready for this and had to go through all these numbers and everything that I went through, and the sales data and everything. Sounds like Comic Connect, which calls the 3% a credit card fee. Comic Link should consider changing the labeling of that fee, since buyer's premium means something different. I agree. It doesn't seem like the right label to me, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, if I can get the book for less by sending a check, I'm going to usually do it. I think there was one time that I was worried I wouldn't be able to get the check there in time, because you have to have it there within 7 days of the end of the auction, and it like slipped my mind to send the check, and I was like, I think it was like 2 days before I had to pay, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I just paid it with a credit card and ate the 3%. So what is the book you would trade the keepers for? Well, so I talked about that in the interview with Comic Collector Geek on his channel. It was like the last segment is he asked, what books am I looking to get? And I told him in that one, I'm like, I don't really like to talk about the books I'm going for very much. And it's for a couple reasons. One is because a lot of the stuff I'm looking for right now is Golden Age. And so because of that, if you make something like more aware, where people are like, oh, that's a cool book. If you add one or two more bidders to a book that comes up for sale once every 6 months, it can really impede your ability to get that book. And so I generally don't like to talk about the books that I'm specifically going after. Now, the other thing is, I talked about this as well on his channel, is that I'm a very opportunistic buyer. That's why, like, I'm looking for those deals, and just every once in a while that deal aligns with a book that I really like. And so often I'm not specifically like targeting a book. I'm not actively going out and looking for a book, because that often leads to, like paying too much. And so to me, I'm usually pretty patient on what I'm looking for. And, I mean, you see like the books I've gotten, it seems to have worked out pretty well. Like eventually the book finds its way to me. And now there are some that there are exceptions, that you probably won't be able to get those deals on. But I mean, even Batman 1, I remember a couple years ago. Well, no, actually, I'll say it was the better example was a couple years ago. There was one that went for crazy cheap on like a heritage auction, or I think it was like a Comic Link auction. And it immediately, the person who got it sold it like a couple months later for double what they paid. I mean, they got it for like 100,000 and sold it for like 190,000. And so you can even get a Batman 1 for cheap every once in a while if there aren't the right people in the room bidding, because there are only so many people that are going to spend $100,000 or more on a book. And so when it's an auction, if those people aren't watching, if they aren't bidding, and then you can have those books slip through still. And there was actually one that happened earlier this year. It was a Batman 1, and it sold on Heritage. I think it was like a 2.5, something like that. Sold for like 120,000. And I mean, I think that was like 180,000 book, 175,000 book all day. And so that stuff can happen even with massive keys. So yeah, and that's, but I since I said it on his channel, I'll talk about it a little bit. One of the ones I've been looking for, or the two kind of on my watch list right now, are Seven Seas 4. It's a Matt Baker cover that I really like, and Startling Comics number 49, which is the Alex Schomburg airbrush Bender cover. So those are two that are definitely like that I'm kind of looking for. But the other reason I don't like to talk about it is because then I always have people like reach out and they're like, "Hey, I have this book for sale," and I'm like, "No, I'm patient. I'll wait to see, if I can catch one on an auction low or something like that." So now, I mean, there are big books. Like I would love to get a Tech 31, that classic cover that was redone by Neil Adams on Batman 227. I would love to get Detective Comics 31. I think that would be awesome, but they are so expensive now. I would have to give up a lot of my keeper books to get one of those. And one of the things is I talk about a lot of this on that interview, so make sure you go check that one out. One of the things about that is that I don't know if I'd want to have just like one big book, because I like having a variety of books. I like having, a lot of different stuff that I can, get out and put on the shelf and look at and all of that. And so if I just have, one book, then I feel I might get bored of it. And then the really expensive books like that, they're harder to sell. Like you can maybe sell them on eBay, but man, I'd be nervous selling a book like that on eBay. And so you almost have to go through one of the major auction houses. And I don't like the risk that goes with an auction. That's why I sell everything, for the most part, with a couple exceptions, fixed price on eBay. And it's because I don't like the risk that goes in an auction. I'm fine if I'm not going to get, lucky and have that one big high sale, as long as I can consistently get the numbers that I'm looking for in my sales. So that's another reason why those really big, expensive books I've steered clear of for the most part. Also just because they're crazy expensive and I don't have the money for them. Yeah, and I just answered this question. I like how you had a video pontificating on the question, would you trade your entire collection for one book, and now you're living it. I'm not trading everything for one book, though. I have been thinking about like the big trade that I did recently, where I traded 5 of my keeper books for 50, is like basically taking, the sales from those 50 and setting it aside and using that to buy like a few bigger books. That's one of the things I'm considering doing. And maybe I've already bought one. I don't know, but we'll talk about that later. And it's going to be a ways off for whatever that video might be. Is the ASM one behind you real? It is, but it is a golden record reprint. So it is a 9.4. I do not have a 9.4 ASM number 1, but I do have a 9.4 golden records reprint ASM number 1, which is still a pretty expensive book, but it is not nearly as expensive as the original. Did Swaglehouse give a speech on the importance of Darkhawk? He did not, but it was more on the current comic market. I can't remember if it had any Darkhawk in it. It probably did, at least a joke. I can't imagine that there wasn't at least a Darkhawk joke in there. Hey, MSG Comics, are you back from the con? I don't know if you were doing that con. Maybe you are. Are you already back from that one? But yeah, let me know how that all went. I am assuming you went to that one as well. Comic Link is quirky AF. Yes. So, I mean, I don't have any issues with Comic Connect. Actually bothers me more. Comic Connect is my least favorite place to participate in auctions. Similar, well, I would say Comic Connect and the My Comic Shop auctions, because what I like about Heritage is that Heritage, they add more time after you bid, but it only adds like 5 or 6 seconds. And so you keep going and you don't jump onto the next book until that book is done. And so you can just continuously follow the flow of the books, which I really like. Comic Link, it's a sudden death, you know. It's like you have to throw in that bid. It's just like eBay. You throw in the bid like a second before the end, and you hope you end up winning the book. But Comic Connect and My Comic Shop add like 3 minutes, and it's the worst. I can't stand it. I mean, I feel like they could just add 30 seconds, or, you know, I know they're trying to account for like lag, but man, it makes it brutal, because not only do they add like 3 minutes, they move on to the next book. And so you can have 15, like if you're watching a ton of books, you can have a whole bunch of books that are all still running at the same time and could end at the exact same moment. And then you can't necessarily bid on all of them. And so that, I really dislike that style, because it adds so much time. You can have, you know, really like one book that could take an hour to end, even though its end time was supposed to be an hour prior. Like that just, it bugs me on those two sites. Oh, you didn't go to the con with Drew. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You had congratulations. Yeah, you had a baby. So yeah, that would be kind of a jerk move to be like, I'm going off to Indiana to go to this con. Have fun. So yeah, no. Yeah. So, but yeah, it sounded like he had a good show. But yes. Yeah. So again, congratulations on the new baby. Comic Link had an error on their side with my card information and charged me and sent the books a whole year later. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds terrible. I could sell my collection and get a nice mid-grade AF-15. Would I do it? No. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I just, even though I would love to have like a Batman 1 or something like that, I'd rather have all this other stuff. so yeah, I mean, I haven't made that decision to go for something like that. Maybe that's the end game, you know, maybe 20 years from now or whatever. Like, that's like, I'm just like, I don't want any of this stuff around anymore. And that's the end game that I end up, you know, going for one or two like huge books. But for now, I enjoy the variety that I have in my current collection. Yeah, hit the like button. But yeah, I don't know. Are there any other questions anybody would like me to answer? We've been on here for an hour and a half. We've gone over, you know, top 10 lists. We've talked about CGC magazines. And so if you've just joined, that was one of the things I was talking earlier. That's why this stuff was up on the screen. And it was because I noticed when I was checking out the new pricing structure, I went down to that magazine tier and I saw this fast track, and there never used to be a fast track option with magazines. And it used to be that this was like 275 days. And so having the ability to get magazines back in 10 days by just paying, you know, $40 or $52, and then even less if you have, you know, the 10% or 15% discount, is awesome. So I have a huge stack of magazines that I want to send in. So I'm very excited about this. Now, I mean, now I'm hoping, like, if I talk about it, it doesn't mean like everybody sends in their magazines now because they see this, and now the time jumps up. But yeah, I'm pretty happy about being able to send in magazines and getting them back in less than a year. Did you watch the MLJ auction on Heritage? Yes, that was actually the first thing we talked about in this live stream. Was there are a couple books that I had up here. This one, you can see, this was my bid of $10,200 on this Pep Comics number 26. I really wanted that Pep number 26. It's the first appearance of Veronica, for anybody that's not familiar with it. And I did not win it. I thought I had it like 3 different times. I thought I had it down at like, I think like 8,500 or like 9,000 or something like that. And like last second, like someone kept throwing in a bid like right before the time ran out. And this bid was actually an angry bid. I was not planning on bidding that much, and I was just like, I'm gonna get this. And they still outbid me. So someone else beat me to that one. And we talked about this book, which was a huge sale, this $13,200 sale for Pep Comics number 20, just a massive sale for that 2.5. Then we talked about this one here, the Blue Ribbon comics that were just going for some big numbers. You don't see these come up for sale very often, and there's definitely been like a few people that are really looking for them, and I think they are fighting it out on sites like Heritage to get these copies. Because yeah, I mean, this one I talked about, I think earlier, where it was there had been like a 9.0 that sold 2 years ago, and before that, nothing had sold since 2017. I mean, that's how long you have to wait. If you're trying to put a run together, something crazy like that, you are going to have a long road ahead of you to be able to pick up those runs of books. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any. Let's go look at. Let's go. I'm happy to keep talking about stuff. So let's go look at that Nintendo Power Sale. Did I spell that wrong? I don't know. That was totally nuts. It was that 9.8. Oh, it's not in here. I don't know why that sale isn't pulled in. Well, we can still talk about it though. So let's see here. You can find it on Heritage site because it sold on Heritage. I'm wondering if because it was part of a different sale that it wasn't part of one of their normal comic sales. It was part of like a Nintendo or a video game sale. And so here we go. And so I'm wondering if maybe that made it so that GPA didn't know to look for it. Most recent sales. Is it loading? Let's see here. April 2021. Oh, here it is. Yep, there we go. Look at that. $108,000 for a 9.8. It is the single highest graded copy. There's only one 9.8. That number is still bonkers to me. I mean, 108,000 for that Nintendo Power. Now, yeah, you get to say you have the only one for now. I mean, I know like our buddy Vancouver Comic Junkie thinks he's got a couple like 9.2s somewhere, that he's got sitting around. So it makes you wonder, like when you see a massive sale like this, like, is it going to cause people just to start looking? I don't know how many of these are out there. I know like I didn't remember owning a Nintendo Power 1. My older brother said we did have one. If we did, it was just wrecked because our Nintendo Powers, like we used those, like we used them to like, find all the little tricks and stuff to get through games. And so they were always in just horrible condition. And you can get like a low grade copy for like $50. I mean, if you want like a 3.0 or something, 2.5, it's like $50 on eBay. But getting a high grade copy, a 9.8, man, $108,000, just crazy. Eventually, I'll take some of my PCH equity and roll it into a big Silver Age key. Not the fear of not getting those Golden Age books back is what stops me. Yeah, no, that's why my keeper list has become all Golden Age. It's just I'm always worried. I'm like, if I let this go, how many years until I can get another copy? Now, granted, like I've been back into comics seriously for like 4.5 years. And I've had a lot of different books. I've had multiple copies of some pretty rare books. And so you can get them, but yeah, I mean, it may take it still could be a couple years. So yeah, when you let stuff go, especially like those things like Blue Ribbon comics and some of the MLJs, like some of the early Peps and stuff, those don't sell very often. Those are pretty scarce books. Yeah, early Pep comics are nearly impossible to get for sure. Let's see. Let me check. What did I win during that? I won 4 books during that auction, and so they will be in an eventual unboxing. But I won a Pep 4, a Jackpot 5, which is the first appearance of Reggie, and then a Shield Wizard 8 and a Shield Wizard 10. And so I won a few books. I was pretty happy with the books that I picked up. But yeah, the MLJ books they can be tough to get. Those early ones, the World War II era books, they're not very common. What are your thoughts on the future of the market for GA Disney 4-color gold key books? Will people 30 years from now still care about Donald Duck, Peanuts, and Roadrunner? Maybe not Roadrunner so much, but I think they will definitely care about things like Snoopy and Charlie Brown, so Peanuts, and Disney characters. Disney, like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, all of that. I would have a hard time seeing those ever going away. I mean, those are pretty core to US like US collectors. There's a huge fan base in the US and across the world for Disney. And so now, does it mean that they're going to be skyrocketing in price? Probably not, but I do think that there is a pretty big built-in collector base for Disney characters, for popular characters. Now, the thing is, if you're going for those types of books, I would focus on key issues if that's what you're worried about. If you're worried about investment value and that kind of thing, get like for Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, like focus on the first appearance of the Beagle Boys, which is one of the later issues. I can't remember exactly which one. It's like 89 or 108 or something like that. Or, Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 1, or like I think is it 31? That's the first Carl Barks story in title, or the War Bonds covers, the ones that are more historically relevant. Like those types of books are what I would focus on, the more recognizable books. Yeah, Uncle Scrooge is still very popular. There was I think there was a first Uncle Scrooge that sold tonight. Let me check. I'm almost positive there was. Yeah, that 4-color 178. It was 13067. So we can go look at that one. So if you're not familiar, because you're not going to know that this is the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge unless you know this is the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge. So this is 4-color number 178, and you can see down here, first appearance of Uncle Scrooge McDuck. And so this was a strong sale. I think I had this one. I had this one at 500, went for 576. So pretty strong sale and a nice looking copy. Looks like maybe there's a little splitting at the bottom, but in general, nice edges and everything. So yeah, if you do ever see this book, like if you're out at like a flea market or something, and you see this and you're just like, oh, this is nothing. This is just this Christmas cover. This is actually the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge and is a pretty expensive book, especially if you start getting up into higher grades. I think if you can find one while they're still somewhat affordable. Yeah. No, I mean, first appearances are always a great thing to go for. I mean, because 4-color, there's so many 4-colors. So there's a lot of run filler. And so, yeah, if you're fine with run filler and you want to like try to put something together like that, that's totally fine. But if you're concerned about, investment value and return and all of that, you generally want to focus on keys. Yeah, I'm guessing this was in reference to the $108,000 sale for the Nintendo Power. Yeah, that was totally insane. I have a decent Amazing Fantasy 15 I bought over 50 years ago. What is the best grade a comic with tape on the spine can get? I mean, it all depends what else is going on, but the highest grade I have had with a piece of tape on the spine, I think is a 5.5, but I'm sure I've seen higher. I think I had it was like a Tales from the Crypt book that I think got a 5.5 and I had tape on the spine. So it was just a small piece up at the top. I also had a Shock Suspense Stories 12, I think, that had tape on the top staple. And I think it also got a 5.5. I'm not saying 5.5 is the upper limit, but I had that's the highest grade I think I've had where the book looks pretty nice, like above the grade, and it got that grade with the tape. So, in Golden's weekly auctions, every lot ends at the same time, but any lot that has more than one bid, the auction extends 15 minutes and each new bid resets the clock. Oh gosh, that sounds awful. That's brutal. That's similar to how Heritage used to. They didn't run all their auctions the same way. So Heritage also has these poster auctions that I watch. I like buying these. I've bought a few of them. I'm guilty of it. I like buying these these like old school posters, movie posters. And the way they used to do it was you had to put a bid in before the auction ended, and if you did, then it opened. You had access to the auction after the close of the bidding. And then at that point, you could put a bid in, and they added it was something similar. It was 5 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. They've now changed it where I believe they do the normal countdown auctions like they do with the comics, but it used to be a different style, very similar to that. Yeah, would love to give a Disney Comics and Stories #1. Yes, that is one of the other books that is still on my keeper list, and is unlikely to come off of it. I never can know for sure what would come in that would make me push a book off, but I had always wanted a copy of that book. I love those covers where they have the person opening the first page, similar to that. What is it? Batman? Is it 13? It's 13 with the Penguin, as well as Batman 42. Let's see. No, it's not 13. Maybe 14. Can't remember. Yeah, 14. Yeah, so Batman 14, you have this one where they're opening it and you got the Penguin there. So yeah, I like this style. I think it's a fun cover. I've always liked those. Crazy to hear you've only been back in comics 4 to 5 years. Your knowledge is like a life. I don't know what knowledge screw lifelong collector means, but yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, I have my friends tell me that when I get into something, I really get into it, and so it's the same with me. And like I snowboard and I do triathlon, and I really like push into those things when I get into them. And comics has been the same. It's just I really liked it when I got back into it. I mean, I collected as a kid, and but then when I got back into it, I went all the way back in. And I think that's one of the things that also really appealed to me about the Golden Age. I felt like there was a lot to learn there, and so it was fun always coming across new stuff, like covers I hadn't seen before. Like I remember maybe a year ago, I saw a copy of Red Dragon #7 on Heritage. I ended up buying it, and it was because I had never seen that book for sale before. I had watched every Heritage auction for like 3 years at that point, and I had never seen this book. And it's a pretty violent cover, so for warning for anybody that's on here. But yeah, this is Red Dragon #7. This cover is nuts. So it's this World War II cover, super violent. I'll take so you can kind of see the bottom there, but yeah, it's super violent cover and looks crazy with the reds and yellows. And so that one, I remember seeing that and I was like, that is a wild cover. And but that was something where I'd watched every auction for years and I'd never seen that book. And so there's these things that can still surprise you with Golden Age comics, especially. I bought a blue ribbon 5.0 for in 2016 for $567. A 3.0 sold for $28.80 this month. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Those blue ribbons, they're going nuts. Yeah, if you want, you definitely have some equity in that book now. Well, yeah, 4-Color 9 is first Carl Barks on Donald Duck. Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 31 is first Carl Barks in that title. So I think it's 31. Let's see. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to do the whole thing. Yeah, this one. So this is the first Carl Barks, as you can see, on Donald Duck in this title. Now, 4-Color #9, which is that like Treasure Island cover. It's a cool cover. I do like that one. That is his first. That's the first time he's ever doing does the Donald Duck stories, and so that's this one here, or Pirate Gold, not Treasure Island, Pirate Gold. So yeah, I've always really liked this one. This is a very expensive book, and this is also a very tough to get outside of low grade. I mean, look at the sales history. It's like nothing above a 2.5, except for this one book in a 9.0. Like looks like it sold for almost $11,000. Yeah, $10,500. I mean, this book just does not come up for sale outside of low grades. I've had 2 copies in the past. I think one was a 1.0 and the other one was like a 2.0 or a 2.5. They are hard to find and they are always beat up. Spidey fan would love to have AF-15, but a Cap 1 is my all-time grail. Would love to get one day. Yeah, Cap 1 would be cool to have too. I can't deny that. A Cap 1 would be a really cool book. Let's see. You wanted my Tech 122. You should have reached out to me. I could have given a better deal off eBay. And I always want to tell people that because I have a number of people that watch the channel that they comment on when they buy something on eBay, that they watch the channel. I don't talk about the sales all that much here. I just try to keep those things separate. But I was joking with Como. It's because I'm a terrible businessman. That's the reason why. But if you are ever interested in anything on eBay, if you reach out to me on Instagram and you're in the US, I don't ship international off eBay, and you're in the US, I always give a better price. Golden's elite auctions are like you described with Heritage in the past. You have to have had bid to extend the time. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little nerve wracking because you're like, it's the same thing with Comic Link, how Comic Link doesn't have a watch list. And so that's one of the most frustrating things to me, that Comic Link doesn't have a watch list. So if I want to be able to watch a bunch of books on Comic Link, what I have to do is I have to make sure that early on, in the auction, I go and put in bids on every book that I'm interested in. Because if it gets too late, then your bid may be the bid that wins. Like there have been times where I've had like $150,000 in bids on Comic Link because I needed to put in these bids to watch all the items, and I knew they were all low enough that I was never going to win them because I'd be screwed. But it's so frustrating because you can't do that. Whereas like Heritage, you just click watch, and I can just watch the book. But you can do that with Comic Connect too. You can do that with My Comic Shop, and I think you can do it with Hakes. You can do it with Collectors Comics. The one we talked about earlier, Dave's site, and but Comic Link, for whatever reason, they have decided they do not want to add that feature. And so the only way for you to make a watch list is to bid on whatever book you're interested in. So you got to get in there early, just so you don't inadvertently end up, because I like watching a lot of books. So you got to make sure you don't end up, accidentally winning something you didn't want to win. Let's see. I've been grabbing some low-grade Golden Age comics, prices around $100, way down from what they used to be. Latest was World's Finest 78, 1955. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the books. I think there was definitely, I was talking about this with Alan, Comic Collector Geek. I believe that's who I was talking about this, was how the Promise Collection books. So there was a lot of, there were tons of big keys that were, selling for big money, but there was a lot of run filler too. And those run filler Promise Collection books were selling for like crazy numbers. And a lot of those, like now that the Promise Collection books have kind of made that first cycle where you're starting to see some of them come out for sale again, a lot of the big keys are hitting bigger numbers. They're selling again, and they're actually selling for more. But the filler books are taking a pretty big hit. And so that's that whole thing where it's like keys are always keys and filler is always filler. And so, if your goal is to, buy a book for, long-term return or whatever it is, then, keys are the way to go. Let's see. I've noticed recently that slab prices on Cover Price include Comic Link. They must be watching the auctions manually because there's no way to search prior auction results. So I can't speak for what Cover Price does, but so on Comic Link, I guarantee you could screen scrape those sales numbers if you wanted to. If you're not, I don't know how familiar everybody is with coding and everything like that, but you could screen scrape the sales numbers for Comic Link. It's just, that's a hassle to have to do that, for every auction that comes up, and you've got to do it quick. Like that's the other challenge with Comic Link is they remove most of their sales data. They seem to keep their like big signature data up there. So you could still probably get access to that later, but like their big premier auctions, whatever I can't remember what they call them. There's like the focused auction and then something else. And, but the other ones, like that data is gone in like a week. And so you've got to have it ready to grab and, pull into whatever your pricing service is pretty quick. So yeah, there are ways you could do it, but yeah, they don't make it easy. Whereas that's one of the great things about Heritage. I mean, that's what I've said. I don't understand why they want to make it difficult. Like you can see right here, like I'm here, talking about, like I'm advertising for Heritage. I'm talking about their site. I'm showing like all these books that they've sold, big sales, small sales, whether it's a big sale or small sale, it's something that gets more people to their site. Like that's great for them. And they make it so easy to get to everything, and they keep everything. They have every sale going back like 20 years and great pictures, high resolution scans, what everybody like the prices. And I don't know why anybody would not want to do this. Like you've got people like me or like other channels that talk about sales that will freely advertise for your site, but Comic Link makes it so difficult that you generally can't do it unless you're doing it like right after the sale. So yeah, I mean, to me, it would be a huge benefit to them. I would think that they would be able to have people talk about their sales. Yeah, don't get me started on Comic Link not having a watch list. You'd think the platform that runs 3.5 week auctions would have watch lists. I agree. I cannot disagree with you. Comic Link might be seeing that as a way to prop up the bids, all people just wanting to watch lots. I've thought about that. I've wondered if that's, like maybe part of the model, where it's like it helps get bids early on, so everything kind of has something bid on it. That could be the model they're going with. Other annoyance: my comic shop sales don't hit GPA until they're paid in full. Makes zero sense. Yeah, so that I remember that was that I don't know if I'd call it a big story, but it was kind of a big story that Dave at Collectors Comics did maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago. It was about that AF-15, and it was the one where the book popped up on GPA as like a record high sale. And people are just like, what is going on with that sale? And then at the same time, within a week, it was up on Comic Link. And so, there was speculation that it's like there's some like shady business going on, and that wasn't what it was. It was that my comic shop makes like you said, makes the data available when the person finishes paying. And this person finished paying and then immediately decided they didn't want the book anymore. I don't know why, but they just like, they were down then, like it was like 60 grand, and they just maybe decided they were sick of it or whatever, and they just wanted to get rid of it. And so, yeah, they had paid it off. It popped up on GPA, and then it was immediately at Comic Link, and people are just like, this makes no sense. But I believe GPA updated that sale. They moved it back to the buy point. Now, I don't know if they do that with the other sales, but yeah, if you're doing a payment plan with My Comic Shop, it's a little kind of wonky how it appears when that data appears. They don't officially count it as sold until the first person finishes buying it. Yeah, I mean, it's their data. They get to decide how they want to do it. But I would think it would be better if it was when they make the the initial buy, put it up there and go from there. But yeah, I know that was. I remember when that came out. That was a lot of people were wondering what was going on with that sale, because it was definitely very confusing. I participated in Comic Link's recent Conan CGC registry set auction. Bidding on a set run is a nightmare there with 20 seconds between auctions. Yeah. Yeah, I've never gone for, I usually don't have like multiple books back to back there that I've been looking at. Just so, yeah, I could see how there could definitely be some challenges there where you've then got, you probably have to have multiple windows open and, all that kind of thing to be able to handle it. Yeah, and that's the other thing with Comic Link. They have so many books in their auctions. They're just massive. They're always a little intimidating for me. But yeah, we've been going for 2 hours now. I really appreciate everybody hanging out, and this has been great. I've liked being able to go over these sales right afterwards. It's been kind of fun. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this live stream, and I'll try to do one before, another month. I seem to be about a month between them, but I'll try to do them a little more regularly. But I mean, my goal is always like at least one per month. But yeah, appreciate everybody joining the live stream, and I will see you on the next one.